Well, hello everyone, and welcome back into Crypto's News. It's me, Omar Bam, aka Crypto, and we are getting ready to get together a very special video because it is a title that you have seen in the past, actually many times. You know, I can almost keep this title on like copy and paste on my little clipboard here because we have broken another all-time high for Bitcoin. It's been actually quite a long time. Well, I guess not that long. We did recently get to $73,000 with Bitcoin, but we have now surpassed that past the $76,000 region. So let me go ahead and get a video going for you guys to cover what's going on here and where we are headed potentially here with Bitcoin and other altcoins, which are looking really positive today. And I want to give a shout out here to Mr. Meaner. Thanks for tuning in here live. I'm sorry that I started the stream late. I didn't want to have any technical issues like I always do, so thanks for the patience there. Are you a fellow in Dominican? My favorite in Dominican, he said. Yeah, I'm Indian and Dominican half. Well, my parents are anyway. So yeah, shout out to remembering that, man. Obviously you've been around for a while, and I appreciate that. Shout out to the Patreon supporters and to YouTube sponsors, and shout out to everyone who says I only make videos when the market is looking good. It just happens to line up that way. Like when I'm really about to make a video, the market gets good. So I don't know. Plus, I know you guys prefer to see my hideous face when the prices are better. It's more tolerable anyway. So let's go ahead and get started here with a look at the prices we have here. And hopefully everybody's tuning in and able to tune in. I haven't seen the chat. If somebody can let me know if everything is working right, that would be fantastic. Okay, all right, okay. It looks like we should be back. Sorry about that, guys. Hopefully everything is good now. It was Windows trying to get me to upgrade to Windows 11, upgrade to Windows 11 for the 500th time, and doing updates in the background. Jeez Louise. Anyway, let's go ahead and continue the video as we should be good. If everything is great, you'll let me know in the chat. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started here. So as you can see, let's go ahead and refresh here. $76,000. $76,472.05 for Bitcoin. It is up 9.3% over the last 7 days, again breaking all-time high. And Ethereum is up 14.7% over the last 7 days, even more powerful than Bitcoin. And its current price is $2,884.76, and it's still quite a ways off from its own all-time high. That's probably why you are seeing that these altcoins are performing better than even Bitcoin. That's something that you do see as Bitcoin begins moving up and kind of cementing what seems to be the fact that we are continuing this here bull market. It is in fact not over. There were a lot of folks that were concerned that with this election, what was going on, it could be possible that we would see a huge crash, either a crash because Trump gets elected and it's a sell the news event since he has promised so much surrounding crypto and getting involved with it in his own token and everything else. And also, what if Kamala Harris had been elected, who seemed to be just kind of a poser when it came to crypto, hanging on, trying to get that vote. But it does seem to not be the case. Bitcoin had resumed rallying as soon as it looked to be clear that Trump was going to be winning. It started climbing and has continued to do so ever since, pretty much. So I think we can expect more of that. It appears to me to be that way. It looks like the skies are clear from here on out as we enter price discovery for Bitcoin. You also see Solana up nicely as well. It's up 16.4%. So the lower market cap, but more reputable, popular cryptocurrencies are going to generally perform better here percentage-wise. And so it can be a good bet to diversify into these lesser blue chip cryptos. I wouldn't even call Solana blue chip, and I certainly wouldn't call Dogecoin blue chip. But if you're holding on to that one, nice job. It's up 20.8%. See, when I open up Bitcoin, though, I really like Bitcoin. I like that the total supply is 21 million. The max supply is 21 million, and we're pretty darn close with the total circulating supply. We're almost at 20 million of those Bitcoin, of those 21 million that will ever exist already in circulation. So it is easier to look at these fully diluted valuations, and the market cap makes more sense especially since we kind of know that's what's going to be the case, at least for probably at least 50 to 100 years, where Bitcoin will not be changing the total supply of coins, I would assume. So I do like to see that. And yeah, you can see we've been an all-time high. Well, actually, we lost it. It looks like we hit it 28 minutes ago, and we're down 0.4%. But yeah, the new all-time high for Bitcoin right here, $76,872.61. Let's take a look at Ethereum. We're still a ways off from that one. The all-time high is $4,878.26. So we're still down 40.8% from the all-time high for ETH. So as Bitcoin climbs into this price discovery, I think Ethereum is going to try to reach that all-time high and eventually hit its own kind of price discovery mode. So yeah, we're still down quite a ways, whereas you're in the profit if you've held Bitcoin for any length of time, except for the last 28 minutes or whatever. And let's take a look at Dogecoin. This is, it would look pretty good, right? Let's take a look. Should we get some Dogecoin? I don't know. Waiting supply. Okay. All right. What is that? That's not even, yeah, that's billions. We got about 150 billion, 146 billion Dogecoin that are circulating here. But the max supply, check out that max supply. That's the infinity logo there. That's what I really don't like to see with cryptocurrencies. So then I went ahead and looked up, well, what is the issuance rate for Dogecoin? We want to know, should we get it? Infinity tokens? We don't care, right? Because we're going to infinity here when it comes to fiat flooding into crypto. We're going to live to infinity if the singularity proves fruitful. So who cares? Max supply infinity. What is the issuance rate? And the issuance rate is 5 billion tokens a year. So that is really only about 4.5% a year that is issued beyond the current total supply for Dogecoin. So assuming that market caps were legitimate and nothing else mattered, we would have to assume that we would have to see Dogecoin go up about 4.5% a year at the current rate in order to make it something profitable. But sure enough, over the last year, it's actually been up 160.8%, excuse me there, about 80% over the last 30 days. And 20% over the last 7 days. So far, it looks like a pretty darn good bet if you've been holding on to that one, especially since it is a household name. The most famous Shibu Inu of all time is a Dogecoin mascot. And so, yeah, I think it is going to be a staple. It's going to be popular. I think as you see more and more people get into this, it's going to be a coin that is talked about. It's going to be in people's heads. And looking at some of these dynamics, especially considering circulating supply is quite high, sure, and the infinity for the max supply is concerning. However, we're talking about 5 billion tokens a year, which is a small percentage, and that percentage gets smaller relevant to the total supply that continues to grow every year. So if you think about it in a way, the whole point is that Dogecoin's inflation rate tends towards 0%, but will never reach 0%. So that's kind of one way to look at it. But is it a bad bet? I would say actually it's not. It's a fun, relaxed coin for the less serious folks, and it's been time tested for some time here. I don't think it's going to be going away, considering how it's managed to stay here through this market, through the years now. So just wanted to give a shout out here for any holders of that. But yeah, any altcoins I think are doing all right, of course, on this first page. If you're looking beyond that, it can get kind of finicky to see if it's gonna prove fruitful here, especially get below into the small cap coins. I would say below like $12 million market cap coins, which we're talking about pretty much. Where are we at here? Yeah, we're not going to see those here. I mean, these are pretty huge market caps on the first page. We're over 1 billion here, so not too bad. Yeah, Bitcoin price, we talked about that. This was huge. So following the election, immediately you had a huge flood of trading volume for Bitcoin ETFs. BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF saw a record $4 billion in trading volume following the US elections. So this is huge, according to Bloomberg senior ETF analyst Eric Balkunas, who I've mentioned many times actually over the years on this show. He noted that there's more volume in Bitcoin ETF volume trading than in stocks like Berkshire Hathaway, Netflix, and Visa today. Massive. in the first 20 minutes of trading day on the day following Trump's win, it was $1 billion in trading volume. Quite massive. $6 billion for all 12 spot Bitcoin ETFs on Wednesday overall. And most of these ETFs did 2 times of their average when it came to the volume. And when it came to inflows, we also saw big inflows. $621.9 million flowing into the products led by Fidelity's FBTC, which accorded $308.8 million in inflows, while ARK's Invest ARK-B, Bitwise's BitB, and Grayscale's Mini Trust each booked positive flows of more than $100 million. Huge records there. Likely we'll see if Bitcoin actually benefits from this, but this is a story. This is the promises that were made, which is possible with Trump now in the presidency, which a lot of this is talk about tariffs, right? Which could increase costs for all sorts of products here in the United States. And this could cause inflation, people paying more for various products. And this is kind of what is being talked about here as the debasement trade, getting into things to hedge yourself from the debasement of the currency, more and more of the currency being printed. And I don't care who is in office, it's borderline automatic. It just is always going up. It's going up faster over time, certainly slower depending on some minuscule thing, but usually it just speeds up. It's just how things work. So it doesn't matter at all who's in there. I think the debasement trade stands regardless of geopolitical tensions and tariffs and whatever. But this is part of what's getting people excited here. Also, this notes that CZ, CEO of Binance, recently jailed and released after just a few months serving his sentence and having to give up $50 million in fines for violating different regulations as he served as the head of Binance CEO, the Bank Secrecy Act. Anyway, he is now freed, and it turns out that he might be receiving offers to give up his stake in Binance, net worth of approximately $53 billion, which surged $12 billion immediately following the U.S. presidential election. I think he's good. I think it's strange, though, that you would give it up as CZ, Binance, because that's almost like your baby, you know, and it hurts. Anybody who started a business will tell you, especially if it was something that was as successful as Binance, that it hurts to kind of give up your baby and to see it go a different direction than what you had hoped and whatever else. So, yeah, he's fielding these offers, but he has neither said he's going to hold on to it forever or not, his equity in Binance there. So, yeah, interesting. He's receiving those offers. It makes complete sense to me. I imagine he wouldn't want to give it up. It's kind of his cash cow, his equity as well. It will be there, I think, for him and his family and trust and whatever else for generations. If he was able to manage that well, I think it would be the smart thing to do is to hold on to that. And that's kind of his claim to fame. Let's move on here. U.S. Federal Reserve announced, funny enough, just today, an interest rate cut by 25 basis points. This also helped to fuel the rally that we are seeing in Bitcoin, in cryptocurrencies. This is cutting the interest rates by 25 basis points down from the previous one to 4.5% to 4.75% range. Previously it was 5% range to 4.75% range. And this is likely what take us up over this $76,000 and to this new all-time high. And it's the same kind of stuff. We are seeing inflation higher than the expected 2%, according to Federal Reserve. We are trending towards that, but inflation still remains somewhat high, and they're going to be looking at all sorts of data and metrics and CPI and the labor market and whatever, yada, yada, yada. They're on track to lower rates. And this is something as well that's mentioned here, which is Trump had previously, when he was in the presidency, had really lambasted the Federal Reserve for keeping rates high, raising interest rates, calling foul against that, of course, because it would make his economy look bad. So it's likely that he will try to continue to pressure the Federal Reserve via remarks or whatever else to try to get interest rates to continue and to trend lower, which would be good for risk assets like cryptocurrencies. He definitely likes to run his mouth and his fingers and so on, and has said such comments in the past, so I wouldn't be surprised if he continues that kind of rhetoric before the midterm elections and so on, and continue to criticize the Federal Reserve. With inflation cooling but still elevated, Trump may argue that lower rates are necessary to fuel economic growth, particularly in the lead up to those 2026 midterms. So this is also really huge. I don't know how much people have talked. What's up, Mr. Orange? I don't know how many people have seen this news. I didn't get to do a video about this, but this was about 2 weeks ago. This was posted that MicroStrategy was seriously considering adding Bitcoin to the reserve. And this is quite legitimate. Microsoft's latest SEC filing, MicroStrategy, which like Microsoft is a technology company, but unlike Microsoft, holds Bitcoin in its balance sheet, has had its stock outperform Microsoft stock this year by 313%, despite only doing a fraction of the business that Microsoft has. And honestly, this whole proposal here is worth a read, so I will read this to you guys, and I guarantee it's worth your time. So listen. In periods of consistent and often rampant inflation, a company's financial standing is unfortunately measured not only by how well it conducts its business, but also by how well it stores the profits from its business. Corporations that invest their assets wisely can and often do increase shareholder value more than profitable businesses that don't. Therefore, corporations have a fiduciary duty to maximize shareholder value, not only by working to increase profits, but also by working to protect those profits from debasement. There's that word again. It's going to come up more and more, I think, as the years go by. Not just from corporations, but from the average person who only knows the word inflation, thinks they know what that means, but eventually will come to really understand it through debasement, which is the greater theme here. The average inflation rate in the U.S. over the last 4 years, according to the CPI, which is a remarkably poor and corrupt, I love that this was included here in a proposal to the SEC, which is a remarkably poor and corrupt measure of inflation, is 5.03%, peaking at 9.1% in June 2022, again, according to the CPI. But in reality, the true inflation rate is significantly higher than that. I love how they said that with such certainty here. It is significantly higher than that due to the remarkably poor and corrupt measures that are used to look at inflation normally, right? Anyway, in reality, the true inflation rate is significantly higher than that, with some studies estimating it to be nearly double the CPI at times. So we're probably at an inflation rate of about 10% realistically right now, peaking at 18.2% in June 2022. So a corporation's assets have needed to appreciate at those rates over the last 4 years just to break even. As of March 31st, 2024, the Microsoft Corporation has $484 billion in total assets, the plurality of which are U.S. government securities and corporate bonds that barely outpace inflation, if assuming that the CPI is accurate, which it isn't. So bond yields are actually lower than the true inflation rate. Therefore, in inflationary times like these, corporations should and perhaps have a fiduciary duty to consider diversifying their balance sheets with assets that appreciate more than bonds, even if those assets are more volatile short term. As of June 25th, 2024, the price of Bitcoin increased by 99.7% over the previous year. Outperforming corporate bonds by roughly 94% on average. Over the past 5 years, the price of Bitcoin increased by 414%, outperforming corporate bonds by roughly 411% on average. MicroStrategy, so this is pretty much what was in the title there. MicroStrategy, which like Microsoft is a technology company, but unlike Microsoft, holds Bitcoin on its balance sheet, has had its stock outperform Microsoft this year by 313%, despite only doing a fraction of the business that Microsoft has. And they're not alone. The institutional and corporate adoption of Bitcoin is becoming more commonplace. Microsoft's second largest shareholder, BlackRock, offers its clients a Bitcoin ETF. Bitcoin is a more volatile asset at the moment than corporate bonds, so companies should not risk shareholder value by holding too much of it. However, as Bitcoin is an excellent, if not the best hedge against inflation, and corporate bond yields are less than the true inflation rate, companies should also not risk shareholder value by ignoring Bitcoin altogether. At minimum, companies should evaluate the benefits of holding some, even just 1%. Let's get off zero, right? Remember that meme back in the day? Let's get off zero. Even just 1% of its assets in Bitcoin. So shareholders request that the board conduct an assessment to determine if diversifying the company's balance sheet by including Bitcoin is in the best long-term interest of the shareholders. I would say this is a darn good argument. It would be really difficult to, I think, pose a stronger argument than what has been outlined here. And this is just like straight up, right? If you don't want to believe this, call this conspiracy that CPI is not legitimate a good way, then you probably need to do more research, as this person who put this together, this proposal together, people who put this together did. Anyway, really interesting to see that. Microsoft was previously the biggest freaking tech company, surpassed by Nvidia quite recently due to AI. I wouldn't even call it hype. It's just like when you look at like the 90s and you saw what happened with a lot of these tech companies that went under. You still had a lot of the companies that were created back then. You still have them actually at this current time around, some of the biggest companies that are around. So if you pick the right winners, I mean, they're being created right now in the AI space. So I don't think it's some sort of hype. There's definitely some sort of bubble in smaller things and hanger-on products, but there is real value being created here that will change everything. Anyway, Trump's biggest boon to crypto would be passing the Bitcoin Act. So there was this Bitcoin Act that was proposed by Senator Cynthia Lummis of Wyoming. She has been a really hardcore supporter of cryptocurrencies for the longest. It doesn't seem to be merely politically motivated. It does seem to have a great understanding of what is going on here and how it could benefit society, but maybe she's just really forward thinking, as many people in cryptocurrency are. So we recently welcome Senator Cynthia Lummis, who introduced a legislation calling for the establishment of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. We did cover it in this channel recently, if you did remember that, to reduce the country's national debt by buying 1 million BTC over 5 years. The bill, entitled Boosting Innovation, Technology, and Competitiveness Through Optimized Investment Nationwide, or the Bitcoin Act, boosting innovation, technology, and there's a Bitcoin. It's the Bitcoin Act, was introduced to the Senate in July. So Trump has talked about being positive toward cryptocurrency, and now that he is elected, people are tagging him. Cynthia Lummis reiterated and retweeted her proposal here, trying to get attention for this Bitcoin Act, which, if adopted, would give Bitcoin a similar reserve status as gold, cementing it really hardcore. And yeah, the government, imagine them buying up 15 or 5% of Bitcoin's total supply. It definitely will, and it probably inspire a lot of different countries, let alone companies, of course, to get involved here. But even what Microsoft is doing, which we just talked about, I think will do similar as well. So anyway, really huge. Yeah, he was making stops at Bitcoin bars. I don't know if you guys had seen that video. I don't think I showed it here on the channel. Showed him trying to make a purchase and talking about how easy it is, but funny enough, he wasn't doing anything. He kind of passed his phone over to somebody else to make the payment, who's standing there. So like, it's so easy. Well, he's like, I can't do it myself. So yeah, I don't think he knows a damn thing. Let's be real. I don't think Trump knows a damn thing about cryptocurrency. I don't think he cares or gives a time. I think he's more interested in having his children understand it and explain it to him, and trying to understand how it could benefit him politically, with so many who are now really getting behind cryptocurrency. So many influential and wealthy individuals who are in crypto. We're talking about like the Winklevoss twins, who are offering support here for Trump and getting behind him, right? So trying to make those folks happy and so on. And more of these lobbying groups that are out there for cryptocurrency, trying to get them on board here. So I think it's a force here to stay. It's kind of incredible when we look back, and I remember like early on in this channel, just kind of imagining all this stuff. We used to, especially if you've been here for some time, if you've been here for some time, then you definitely remember we've talked about all these different things that could happen, and it is happening day by day here. It's kind of surreal to see. It does remind me of the Singularity and how it's the case that science fiction is becoming reality. And it's definitely not science fiction what we're seeing here with Bitcoin. So really cool to witness here. And being against crypto politically is really shooting yourself in the foot here. There's a reason I think that he won. And it was talked a lot about in recent video by Peter Schiff. And the real reason he was elected is because folks are upset. I mean, it is inflation that is hurting their pockets. That is what people are voting with for the most part. And they've seen how inflation didn't benefit them recently. Not that Trump is going to slow it down in any meaningful way, but that's what they think. But at least he supports crypto more than the other guy. But I don't know. I don't trust the guy. We'll see what he could do. But anyway, he has, I think, said something that could be really good for cryptocurrency as well, beyond what I've mentioned, which is his talking about how he would fire Gary Gensler, the current the chair of the SEC, on day one if elected, which would be 13 days from now on January 20th when he will be inaugurated. So he has talked about firing Gary Gensler, who has been very inconsistent when it came to applying or even clarifying rules for how cryptocurrencies can operate as securities or as not securities. Basically chokeholding, and there was an Operation Chokehold, right? 1.0, 2.0, that was almost doing exactly this in some sort of non-really covert way. It's making it very difficult for newer players in the space to get started, newer companies to get started in this space. It's getting it so that the whole space can basically be controlled by controlling it through the exchanges that could offer limited products. It's really a shame to see. It's very anti-ethos of what cryptocurrency is supposed to be, using smart contracts in order to say, well, I don't care what you say I can or can't do. I'm going to be able to just click a button and the code will do what code is going to do. And recently I've had an opportunity to do that, for example, with Poly Market. People have been betting with things like Augur to try to predict who would win the election. But in the United States, as I have mentioned, I'm not able to access these products through their UIs. It might be possible through accessing the smart contract, go calling the function yourself, plugging it into your wallet, which runs its own kinds of risks if you don't know what you're doing. And might be a little bit more difficult to do, but it's still totally possible to get involved with these markets. So it doesn't matter what they do. They're just really crippling the average guy here, like with a lot of these accredited investor rules as well. But anyway, Gary Gensler, knowing that he could be on the way out, could be stepping down like right away, potentially, which means that Joe Biden would have to put somebody in his seat pending the Senate approving someone that is nominated by Trump. But Trump cannot actually fire, as mentioned here. He can't actually fire Gary Gensler, but it's possible he will step down here, considering the way he's being looked at here. Yeah, look at all these people who have been getting behind Donald Trump. Winklevoss twins, Mark Andreessen, Ryan Selkis, huge crypto names here. And that was the exact quote. On day one, I will fire Gary Gensler, he had said. So yeah, I think this would be really positive for cryptocurrency. Maybe we'll finally get some clarity from a new leader. And because of the way that he has been having all these enforcement actions against unregistered securities, Gary Gensler, some of these coins that were under fire from these various lawsuits have been pumping, including Filecoin, Algorand, Polygon, formerly Matic, and Near Token as well, following what could be a shakeup with this new Trump administration. Ross, so a lot of folks, and I can finally talk about us. I really hate talking about politics. I really do. I think it's such a joke. And I'll say right now, I didn't vote. I don't care what you think, whether I should or not. I don't care. I really don't care. I'm just here to watch this story play out. Crypto will win in the end. And I don't believe the whole way the system works with pork barrels, throwing in some shady stuff and some proposal, with the way lobbying works, with the way people get jobs after their political seats. It's just such a shady system to me that I cannot really get behind this crony democracy. It's not what what was promised. And I knew that right in government class. But anyway, one of the promises was that Ross Ulbricht would be pardoned, the founder of the Silk Road, who's currently serving ridiculous, like 2.5 consecutive life sentences, something absolutely ridiculous. And I'm not talking about like life sentences, 25 years. It's not about natural life, which is like your whole life sentences. Anyway, he's been so cool, right? If you check out what he's been writing through prison, how he inspires fellow inmates, how he stays hopeful day in and day out. It's really, he's an incredibly strong character, I would say. Someone who should give you hope in some of your troubled lifetimes. And it would be great, I think, such an inspiration to see him get freed, to give you that hope as well. Like, things always get better, right? If you just kind of continue to hold on, they usually get better. So I would like to see him actually pardoned. We'll see if that promise is upheld. The Free Ross account wrote on Twitter today, Ross is coming home in January. We are so grateful to Donald Trump for his pledge to free Ross and to all those who have supported us. Here's to this 12th Thanksgiving in prison being the last one. So yeah, fingers crossed for that one, and not behind my back either, like in the good way. And we'll tap on wood so that the spirits who try to make things go shady hear this and give us leniency. Anyway, Caroline Ellison sentenced to 24 months in prison. I believe we had mentioned this in the show. She worked to be the biggest traitor to the folks that she was in partnership to defraud so many people out of millions and millions and millions of dollars who are still waiting to get that money back in many cases. Anyway, she was sentenced to 24 months in prison, although she could have gotten up to 110 years in prison. But the judge said that was kind of egregious. He actually seemed to really like Caroline Ellison, as you'll see here, while he was announcing what the sentencing would be. The judge referred to this as kind of like a get out of jail free card because of how much information she was giving up. So this was put up on Bloomberg. As the sentencing was read out, this is how it was. Ellison hardly reacted, looking down at the floor, while her mother and sisters appeared to tear up as the hearing ended, wiping their eyes with tissues. The courtroom was filled to the brim with more than 30 people, including Ellison's mother, father, and sisters. Seated in the front row behind her, court officials had to bring in more seats, and an overflow room was established. Dang. The silence was palpable throughout the hearing as attendees listened closely to every word. Kaplan heavily praised Ellison's cooperation in the case, saying he has never seen one quite like her during the 30 years on the bench, and noting he saw zero inconsistencies between what she told prosecutors and what she'd said on the stand. He also said he didn't think further punishment was necessary to prevent similar conduct in the future, but then took a hard turn once he got past the issue of deterrence. But anyway, let's see. Yeah, she's going to have to forfeit $11 billion. She has $11 billion? Jeez Louise. You're a very strong person, Miss Ellison, the judge said, in some ways, but not inviolable. Mr. Bankman-Fried, Sam, SBF, had your kryptonite. You were vulnerable and you were exploited, he said. So he definitely feels for her quite a bit here. There was one more thing that I wanted to see here. Let's see. Where was it? Oh, yeah. I cannot overstate the importance of Ellison's testimony in convicting Bankman-Fried. Ellison's cooperation, which together with the trial evidence, proved Bankman-Fried's criminal knowledge and intent. I'm so sorry. I cannot speak again today. That's what happens when I don't do videos constantly. My mouth just, the diarrhea is not so good, Anyway, thank you guys for hanging in there. But yeah, so she's going to be serving her 2 years in prison and so on, setting the precedent here. Hey, if you give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth with zero inconsistencies, then we will definitely grant you leniency. I think that's really what they're trying to set here for future criminal actions and enforcement. And I kind of do like the way that the judge operated in this kind of case here. And she did make this case a lot simpler and help it resolve for folks who are due money and with getting SBF locked up himself. But yeah, watch out where you put your thing, I'm kidding. What am I saying? This is a family-friendly show. I was talking about, obviously, the shapes in the right holes. I'm going to stop talking. Ethereum is like Amazon in the 1990s, 21 shares. This is an ETF issuer here for Ethereum. And funny enough, they have about $21.9 million worth under holding with that. So 21 shares, they got $21.9 million in inflows that they've had. Cool. But anyway, they might increase that beyond that if they change their name, right? It's like 25 shares and we'll have like $25 million in inflows. Maybe this is like some sort of secret hack. Anyway, to continue. Wall Street investors are largely unaware of Ethereum's potential, which is why you're not seeing as much inflows into Ethereum ETFs as what you're seeing with Bitcoin, similar to what you saw in Amazon in the 1990s, before it became a $2 trillion tech giant. Beyond just being a small bookstore, an online bookstore, it's now a global e-commerce platform, cloud computing giant, and it's shaped how we use and shop for digital services. I mean, we have products like Audible. I mean, Amazon is huge. And who could have imagined that when they were just merely an online bookstore? And I think some of it had to do with kind of the way that their mission structure, I guess you could say, their mission was set up. And It's similar with Ethereum, and maybe even more so, where you see that it's set up to do huge things. It's already doing massive things, but Ethereum's $320 billion market cap is only 6.25% of Amazon's $2 trillion valuation. And we also have to consider that by the end of the 1990s, Amazon had employed around 7,600 people. In contrast, today, this is massive. The Ethereum network today has over $200,000 active developers. We're talking about software engineers, we're talking about researchers, and protocol designers, those who make the specs and the blueprints that these engineers, software engineers, then eventually create. A massive amount of people. And it wasn't like that when I started this show. I remember it would be huge parts where we would talk about how great it would be for folks to learn Solidity. And I think Ethereum was like $10 at the time or $15. I can't recall, but it was like, yo, this is, especially when it hit like 20 and 30, it was like, yo, this really goes to the moon as we expect if it goes to 2,800 plus. Wow, we're going beyond that. But anyway, if it goes there, then there's going to be huge demand for these developers. And likely that's what we're seeing here, folks who have been training in this, who are now participating in developing this network. And it has so many different use cases because of smart contracts. Right now, we're already seeing decentralized exchanges, borrowing, lending, NFTs. IoT is the one that I'm still so excited for. And that was one that I think combines what was my interest in the show, which is a singularity, futurism, and what we're seeing Ethereum do with smart contracts, which is plugging in devices into a decentralized network that does not mine our data. And you could do all sorts of things with this, just like we see with the Internet of Things, with things like lights that turn on when you speak, with things like Alexa and Google Home, which are so behind with what you're seeing with things like ChatGPT when it comes to interacting that way. But anyway, imagine all this on a decentralized networks. We're talking about chips getting faster every single year. We're talking about AI purpose chips that are coming out. We're talking about cryptocurrencies that are household names now, which have developers that can build these things. I think that the next 10 years will blow your mind with what is absolutely possible to be created with this. And that is in tandem with the help of artificial intelligence and again, computing kind of filling our entire world. I wonder if we could put Ethereum in like nanobots eventually. Would that be possible? We put Ethereum in nano. What good would that be? I don't know. Probably not good. Have you guys heard of the gray goo theory, whereby basically the worst thing is nanobots that could ever happen for humanity? Because in a nutshell, there'll be a two-pronged attack. Basically, you'd have these self-replicating nanobots that would self-replicate and self-replicate exponentially, but they're small, so small and undetectable that you cannot figure out that they're all over the planet, decentralized. So they literally get everywhere, cover the entire Earth, and then do some sort of attack at the same time. Yeah, that would probably be the end of humanity. We lost control in that kind of gray goose scenario. Fascinating. Yeah, I don't want these Ethereum nanobots anymore, coming to think about it. Just scratch that entire idea. But before we get those nanobots that self-replicate and possibly destroy humanity, we could have detectors that detect that these nanobots are spreading everywhere. So the battle for humanity between robots is going to be really exciting. Anyway, yeah, that's a lot of what I'm interested in these days is, continuing to be that beyond just cryptocurrencies. But yeah, I think huge what we're seeing here, of course, with the creation of these things and that not being valued by so many different financial firms and just individuals around the world, right, who still control this and a lot of these ideas that fund the way that these firms work. BlackRock has tokenized over $533 million of money market funds on Ethereum as well. On November 1st, so 6 days ago, the Union Bank of Switzerland rolled out a tokenized fund. We've seen many of those different kinds and versions of tokenized funds that operate on Ethereum, still kind of like pilot projects, smaller projects, but more and more of these things. Building great value, N+1 value, I think, for Ethereum. Payment firms, PayPal, Visa, also building on Ethereum. We've talked about that over the years. So yeah, inflows into spot ETFs, spot Ether ETFs were 9% of what spot Bitcoin ETFs managed over the first 90 days, when excluding grayscale outflows. So I think there's an asymmetric bet for sure that's going on here. And for me, I think it's still the number one place to be. I continue to be mainly in Ethereum. That has not faltered for me since I really started investing in Ethereum and then mining Ethereum, that is still the primary bet. And there's still tech things happening as well. Layer 2 is becoming more popular. Yeah, fees were reduced from various implementations such as blobs that lowered mainnet fees that make it look like there's less revenue coming in, cash flow through the network, but it's not really a good way of looking at things. Plus fees will increase as more adoption of these things continues. So I really don't care about fees. I'm all happy for lower fees. I love to use Arbitrum for lower fees, for example, and pay like cents for any sort of trade or any sort of action. Really cool stuff if you haven't tried out Arbitrum. But yeah, so super hyped about Ethereum. Also, I found this comment here on the ETH Finance subreddit. BTC, this is by Epic Goblet. BTC is now in price discovery, breaking the all-time high. This used to be a common experience, but over the years, it has become less common. Historically, this is a special video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I so appreciate that. Historically, this is the moment you want to own ETH. We might not see this position for another 5 to 10 years. BTC is above all-time high and is all but guaranteed to break the six-figure number. When that happens, media will pick it up and a blow-off top will come fast. In the meantime, ETH, and continue to smash the like buttons, guys. It'll help people find this show so we can continue to make more videos. The more people that watch, the more interest I have in definitely making these videos as well. And we'll just keep this story going, right, as we have. In the meantime, ETH is currently way under all-time high. We don't even enter price discovery until almost 5K. So again, north of 4,800. By then, Bitcoin at 100K, we'll have to assume Bitcoin is already at 100K when Ethereum is about to breach its all-time high. ETH then breaks all-time high, has its own price discovery, perfect storm. So price discovery, if you haven't heard that term, in a nutshell is we don't know what the upper bounds for this price could be. And that tends to fuel a kind of mania, a kind of tulip mania, well, maybe not a tulip mania because these things have more longevity behind them than tulips in the Netherlands. But anyway, we try to find those prices, and that tends to create a fervor, a mania that fuels prices up and then gets more people excited. And there is no like line at the top saying that is going to be, there is no resistance. It's all support, baby. So anyway, perfect storm. I'm expecting to see Bitcoin, according to Epic Goblet here, at $130,000 and ETH at $7,000 this cycle. So that's before the crash, which most certainly will come. I'm not someone who's going to say up forever, probably ever again. Actually, I probably will at some point. Let's be real. But it'll have to take something really serious for me to change my stance on that one. Anyway, I don't think there's more than a year left to this cycle. They typically come and go way faster than anyone expects. There's a lot of excitement everywhere right now. The S&P can't go up forever. Don't forget to take a profit somewhere while we're all winning. Great piece of advice there. Want to book that profit while you're in the green, at least some portion of it. Stay safe out there, guys, and don't risk it all and don't lose it all. I really want to see you guys do well. If you guys do well, then you tend to stay interested in crypto and you come back to the show and spread the word. So it does benefit me as well. And plus, just to see people hurt, I think is one of the most troubling things that I see in crypto. People get burned and bitter about crypto and then kind of shoot themselves and other people by speaking bad about it online and in person, and then they shoot other people in the foot. This is an important time, again, looking at that theme of debasement. Anyway, I was going to show this chart of Bitcoin, but when my computer restarted here at the beginning of this video, it is forcing me now to log in, so I'm not going to, but I just thought it was kind of sexy. I was showing here the all-time high here on the weekly for Bitcoin, and sky is the moon here, and it will drag up other coins with it. And yeah, surely there will be pullbacks. I'm not saying we're going to continue to break all-time high day after day here, but I think we're setting up for that with what's coming up and a lot of what we're seeing, this energy that is carrying us forward through this bullish period. So here is, oh, dang, I haven't even been showing you guys anything, but it doesn't matter. This I do want to show you guys. Where was I going to show you guys? There we are. This is a silly little meme here. So hopefully we come back to these times as well, especially now as we get into the holidays. And I always talk about this as people start to talk. Now that we're seeing the timing line up, like here we are heading into November, which tends to be a really good month for crypto, as I always talk about year after year. And it's happening at a time where we are breaking all-time high. people will likely be talking about this again. Here's a meme. Promise you won't talk about Bitcoin at dinner with my parents, says girlfriend. Promise you won't talk about Bitcoin at dinner with my parents. I can't take it anymore. You do this every time. You talk with everybody, with friends, people don't want to talk to me anymore because they think all I care about is Bitcoin, because I always want to have you with me, and I have you with me, and then all you talk about is Bitcoin. So they think all I care about is Bitcoin. They don't care about Bitcoin. They don't care about Bitcoin. Me after one beer, the world is changing. Anyway, yeah, sorry about that. And here is a meme that I think lines up with our theme of debasement today. I'll survive what's coming. I have savings. You think that's real money you're saving? Yeah, I've been working some shifts part-time in a restaurant on the weekends for some extra flow, right? The more I can hold on to my crypto, whether that's by teaching piano, working some shifts, the more that I can hold on and do these videos. And shout out to like the Patreon people who continue to support month after month, even though I do less videos. I honestly can't share my appreciation enough for that. I see average people every day, and they don't understand cryptocurrency at all, I'm telling you, let alone money, let alone savings. Like one dude who's like just trying to get to $5,000. Like his goal is to get $5,000 in this money card that work pays him, and like his tips go into this money card. I don't believe in these money cards. I want my cash now stat in my pocket, right? Because I know how it works. I know how inflation works. Savings is a giant scam. But average people think, I'll just hold on to these savings and I'm going to be set. I'm going to hit $5,000 and that money will just go like this, let alone the price of everything going up, tariffs now coming in, inflation speeding up. It's a dangerous game when you're saving in fiat versus cryptocurrencies. So get ready for Bitcoin to become a huge thing as people really begin to understand debasement, I think. It does concern me a lot, though, heading in that direction. And jobs being lost by AI, that is going to be happening. And it is already happening if you're paying attention. Anyway, we'll finish with a quote of the day. And it's by Bob Marley. You never know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have. Take care, everyone. Much love, and stay cryptic. Peace.